We are in this last week of our series, You Are Culture. And we've called it that because, as I've said other weeks, that we believe that we create culture. It does not just happen to us or around us, but we are creators of culture. By the choices we make, by the things we do, by the things we value, we create culture. And so we have been talking about these 7 things that we as Trinity value and hold dear. The way that we want to live and operate in the world, the things that we want to lift up in what we do together corporately, but also what we all do as individuals in the world, in our daily life throughout the week. We want to honor and lift up these values and live our life accordingly. These aren't just catchy slogans or church speak, but things that we say, this is what we want to describe us as a church and as individuals. And I'd like to read them again by way of looking back and reviewing a little bit the 7 values. I'm going to read the title, that bold piece, and I would like for you guys to respond by reading the descriptive phrase that goes with it. Our first value was biblical teaching. Sacrificial worship. Full participation. Outward focus. Intentional discipleship. Radical hospitality. And today, generous living. It's easy when we talk about these things to pay good lip service to these ideas and be excited about what they represent without actually embracing them personally. And that has been the challenge, I think, for all of us throughout this series is how do we not just say that we value these and put our posters up that look great and repeat these phrases? How do they not just become slogans, but how do we actually embrace them in the way that we live our daily lives? That is where the obedience piece comes in and what I think we really have to wrestle with. It's easy to say, yeah, my church is so outward focused, but for there not to be anything in our own lives that we do to make sure the focus stays off of us and really onto the needs of others, that happens sometimes. It doesn't fit with what we say we believe. Or, man, we believe so much in sacrificial worship. I love that statement. We give our all in response to God. But the reality is sometimes we come into this room and we don't really sacrifice anything at all. We're more focused on all the things that we don't like or that didn't go the way we would want them to go, etc. Or it's so cool that we have this value of intentional discipleship and we're really, really well intentional. But sometimes the truth is unwilling to really open up about our spiritual life and be transparent with people or actually carve out consistent time to spend in the Word. It can be a challenge to keep these from being just slogans, just posters that we put up. And as we come to the end of this series and we look forward, that's the thought that has been in my mind this week. How do we truly live these and not say, well, that was a cool series that we did back in the fall, and now we have these great sayings. How do we really embrace them? When there's that kind of inconsistency between what we say we believe and what we actually do, it drives us crazy, actually, when we see that kind of thing at work in other places, like this road sign, for example. We say we should plan ahead, but actually, we didn't do such a good job. Or this one. Yeah, we say there are no warning signs, but really we need a warning sign, right? What we say and what we did are different. This one is good. No signs. No, absolutely none. 0 signs on this property, except for this one. One more. I like this one. Sometimes what we say and what we do are not the same thing. We say they're antique tables, but actually we make them every day, which, Yeah. So when we see that kind of dissonance out in daily life, we laugh at it or make fun of it. But this is exactly that kind of dissonance in our own lives as Christians between what we say we believe and the way we live in the world is problematic. But I want to encourage you this morning for just a few minutes here, because my heart has been encouraged this week and over the last several weeks as we have been in this series to hear the stories and the testimonies of the way we are embracing this kind of lifestyle, not just words in a poster, but lifestyles of intentional discipleship and outward focus. Can I share with you for just a few minutes a few things that are they're awesome, and I want you to know about them. We say that we value outward focus, that we want to give our attention to the world around us and not only be focused on ourselves. Well, this week, 6 driveway parties are being hosted. I talked about them earlier, with the potential to impact 500 or more people right here in our East Fishers area. That's awesome. That's outward focus. If we had 500 people show up here for an event, we'd be thrilled. But we get the opportunity to connect with those same people out in our neighborhoods, out in our community, because we are outward focused. And I'm excited to hear these stories that come out of these parties, the connections that are made, and I'm excited to see the fruit that comes from that. That is outward focus, truly in action. Also this week, speaking of outward focus, I heard the story of a couple in our congregation who has a favorite spot that they like to go to for lunch on Sundays, and they are building a relationship with a waitress there, and have even extended an invitation to community group as they have gotten to know this person over time. That is outward focus. Living the things we say we believe. So good. Intentional discipleship. We make disciples who make disciples. That's our value. That's our statement. Here it is in action. This week, got to sit down with someone who's been in one of these D groups. And just to plug and a reminder, if you want to know more about these, you got to come tonight at 6. It's going to be a great night. But this person has been involved in a D group for a period of time. This is probably not something this person would have just naturally sought out on their own. They're not kind of a spill their guts kind of person, but this guy said to me, it's been good for me. This has been really good for me. And now we're talking about ways that he can lead a group of his own. And even some people who are new in their faith or struggling with questions of faith, and how those people can be a part of that group as well. We make disciples who make disciples. This is our value in action. It's good stuff. We say we value radical hospitality, not just inviting our friends over for dinner, but going to the stranger, to the people who are different than us, to the people where there might normally be some social or cultural barrier. We go beyond to exhibit radical hospitality. Someone in our congregation is hosting a gathering specifically to bring people together of opposite political opinions and views, to say the way of Jesus is that we come together and we talk and we dialogue and we don't throw bombs at each other on Facebook. And so he's getting these people together to have dialogue. Most of them are not believers. That's radical hospitality in action. Right here in our congregation, full participation. The mission of God requires all hands on deck. All hands on deck. Everyone has been given something by God that they can use to contribute and build the kingdom. We believe this and we value it. I got to sit down with someone this week who filled out one of the blue serve cards. You remember a few weeks ago we had the boards in the back, and we had a card there for folks who say, you know, the roles that you have up there are not necessarily for me, but I have something I can give. And I got to sit down with this person, and we have some awesome ideas in the works for how we can use this building and this place to reach East Fishers in an even greater way. This person has skills and expertise and training that our staff does not particularly have, because we're not good at a lot of things. But this person is, and said, I'm willing to give it. We're good at some things, all right? A few things. But this person said, I'll give my skills and my effort. And we have some great things in the work. Full participation in action. We are living the values that we say we believe in. That is how we change and create culture. Amen? Can we say amen to that? Can we just say that's awesome to see the testimonies of what God is doing and change lives. I love it. I love it. This is what we want. This is what we long for. I'm encouraged by that. And so as we look at generous living, this last value that we believe in, I want to look at this full statement of the value. It says, God has given us all that we have, everything. This example of kindness should cause us to be a generous people who use our time, talent, and treasure for his kingdom. God owns everything, and we are simply stewards of his resources. This time, talent, and treasure trifecta here are significant because these are the resources that God has given us. He has given us the freedom to use and govern these things. Our time, for example. We have the freedom to make choices about how we use the minutes, the hours, the days, the years of the life that he has given us on this earth. Our talent, we have freedom to make choices about how we use the skills and the abilities and the interests. We are all wired in different and unique ways for a reason. And we have the freedom to choose how we use those things that he has given us. And our treasure, we make choices every day about the material things that we have or that we earn and what we do with that and how we make use of it in the world. Time, talent, and treasure are the resources that he has entrusted to us for us to use and for us to steward. And every day is made up of hundreds of decisions. If you really think about it, about what you're going to do, where you're going to go, what you're going to say, what you're going to buy, all of these things are what it means to be a steward of our time, talent, and treasure. The question becomes, will we spend those things primarily on ourselves and for our comfort and for our pleasure and for our enjoyment? Not that there's anything wrong with enjoying life. God wants us to do that as well. But is that our focus, or are we saying we will make these available? Our time, talent, and treasure, we will make them available for God to use and direct to build his kingdom. Because this question of generosity is really a question of the heart. When we talk about generous living and the value that we have, we're not talking about quantities or amounts that we give away. It's not about that or percentages. It's about the posture of our heart. It's not measured by how much. It's measured by the posture of our heart. The second part of our value statement says that God owns everything, that we are simply stewards of his resources. Think about that for a moment. We know that God created everything that exists, everything in the world was his creation, and we know we have the great promise of Jesus' return that he will come back. He will restore the earth to the place he always meant it to be, and he will reign forever here. Everything will be under his dominion. So everything that we have is simply passing through our hands. It's simply been entrusted to us for this time, for us to be stewards of it, for us to use it wisely. And really, it is an invitation that he gives us, a privilege to steward those resources, to participate in his great work of blessing and building the kingdom. And so generosity is about the posture of our heart. And are we willing? Do we hold the things that we have like this because we seek them for our pleasure, or do we hold the things that we have like this and say, God, they're merely passing through my hands. Do with them what you want me to do with them to build your kingdom in the world. Generosity is not about quantities. It's not about how much we give. It is about this attitude of our heart. Our text today is in Matthew. Go ahead and get out your Bibles. It'll be on the screen as well. Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 24. It says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. These words here, Jesus' words, come to us as part of the Sermon on the Mount, which is the first of Jesus' big teachings that we see in the book of Matthew. This is sort of his inaugural address, if you will, the first moment when he really begins to teach about what is the kingdom that he has come to usher in. And all throughout the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is pointing out things about the way people live their life, and he's turning it on their head. And he's introducing this kingdom that is an upside-down kind of kingdom from the way our minds usually think. He says things like this in this sermon. You have heard it said, do not murder. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. You have heard it said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery. You have heard it said, eye for an eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, if someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. This sermon is Jesus taking our typical human thinking and turning it upside down and saying, there is another way. There is a better way. And it sounds backwards to you, but it is the way of blessing. And that is where we find this passage on storing up our treasures. Our human tendency, our default is to store up treasures for ourselves here on earth. And he's saying, no, store up treasures in heaven. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. When we hear Jesus teaching on money, and he talks a lot, he talked a lot about money when he was here on the earth, we usually respond to that in a couple of different ways, and you might identify with one or both of these. The first thing we often say is we remind ourselves that there's really nothing wrong with earning or having money. So we hear these teachings on generosity and the wealth that we have here in North America, and by no means can we dispute the fact that as you look around the world, we are wealthy in North America. It is true. We often say, well, there's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with having money. The second thing that we often say in response to this is sort of a comforting statement to ourselves, where we say our accumulation of wealth, the fact that I have things, possessions, money, doesn't mean that I love it. I mean, Jesus is saying here, right, don't love money. He's not saying don't have it, just don't love it. So the fact that I have what I have doesn't mean I love it. There's a problem, I think, with both of these statements that I want to talk about for just a second. The first statement, that there's nothing wrong with making money, is true. Jesus isn't saying it's bad to make money. He's not saying it's bad to have money. We have to have money. We have to it's part of our economy, the system in the world, right? He isn't saying that. The problem with this statement is that it's a little bit irrelevant and misses the point of what Jesus is saying here. The issue at hand in the text is not how much we have, but the condition of our heart about what we have. Because when we talk about generous living and this value of giving all that we have because of what God has given us, it's not about quantities, it's not about amounts, it's about the state of our heart. How do we hold the things that we have? The second statement, where we say, I don't love money just because I enjoy having it or because I do have a lot of it by world standards. The problem with this statement is it's just not honest, I don't think. This is like the alcoholic who claims that he doesn't have a problem even though he can't go to bed at night without a drink. If we have, and we enjoy having, and we enjoy accumulating, we have to admit that we love what we have. And it says something about the posture of our heart before God. Jesus said, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." If you want to know what is the posture of my heart, where does my heart stand as it relates to the things that I have, the material blessings that God has given me, ask yourself, how do you use your time, talent, and treasure? Where does it go? To benefit what? To benefit whom? Where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Take stock of that in your own life. How do you spend your time, your talent, and your treasure? There's something about our human frailty, our sinfulness, that makes our heart want to follow our possessions. And I think that's why Jesus is saying here, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And it's why generosity and the giving away of what he has given us, the stewarding of our resources, is so important. Because your heart likes to follow, our hearts like to follow our possessions. And so we give away to lead our heart toward the needs of others in the world and to steward what he has merely put into our hands for a period of time, a short period of time, relatively speaking. I told some stories earlier about the ways that we're living out these values. I want you to hear two more stories today. The first, from folks here in our congregation. I've asked them to share a little bit. Becky, would you come on up and join us? You guys know Becky, and I want her to share a little bit about her journey. Let's move these over here. Most of you know. Most of you know that Becky and Todd have been very active in, yes, thank you, that will help, have been very active in the country of Haiti. So Becky, tell us, I think you first went in 2013, is that right?
I'm going with you on that.
She doesn't know. I think it was 13. I was looking through old pictures and trying to find that date. 13, I think, is when it was. And one of you, or both of you, has been every year since 2013. What was it that captured your attention that first year that has made you willing to continue to give your time to go to the country of Haiti?
Well, Todd can't be here, but I asked him that question too, and we both agree that just seeing what the Haitian people, how they live and what they have, did it for us, because we have so much here and they don't. They're like here, our spiritual needs are great, but our physical needs are mostly met. And even in some of our poorest communities, we have programs. We have needs here too. We have physical needs here too. I understand that. But there's no comparison to the physical needs that people in Haiti have. And water is one of them. Water, you cannot live without water, and the water that they drink is killing them. So we don't have that problem here. So us going over and seeing that with our own eyes, it changes you a little bit, or a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot, for sure. And you've gone every year since, so I would say that's a pretty big change. A few years ago, you started a business, and you made a decision to give part of what you make from that business to the work in Haiti. Why would you do that?
Okay, well, it's not as romantic as it sounds. I did not want to do that business, and so I really didn't want to do that business, and I didn't think I was going to do that business. And then when it started to happen anyway, even though I didn't want to do the business, Todd and I remember where we were. We were sitting at the bar in our kitchen, and I said, okay, well, some money is coming in. We got to figure out what we're going to do with this. And, well, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? And we just, both of us, let's give it to Poured Out, who is the organization we go with for the Clean Water Initiatives in Haiti. And we're like, yeah, totally. But we didn't honestly, we weren't like, oh, look at, it was like, we're not going to make any money on that business, but if we do, let's just do that. So it wasn't as romantic, but now the business has grown, and we're just like, it's connected. Haiti and water is connected to that business, so it's one and the same. So if I stop doing Haiti, that business is we're going to stop the business, because it's so weird. We didn't do it. It's just what it is, and I don't know. It's just they're one and the same. They're completely from the same birthing, and it was God did that. I didn't know, but I honestly didn't know that's what was going to happen. It's just what it is.
Yeah, and this is the thing about generosity, is that it's a celebration of what God does, because it's about the posture of our heart. So it's not about quantities, it's about our willingness to steward what we have. And in what you said, money's coming in, what do we do with it? We steward it, and now you have an opportunity to bless so many folks in Haiti because of that. Because we're talking about this being a matter of the heart, how has being involved in Haiti in this way changed your heart, you and or your husband?
Yeah, we talked about that too. For me personally, and Todd, the reason he loves the organization so much is because they partner with the pastors that are in Haiti. So we bring clean water, and we tell the pastors, this is your opportunity to minister now. And they're like the water house keeper. Come in for the water that's not making you sick. Come, free, get water, and let us tell you about Jesus, who's the living water. And so they sustain it. We just help the program. And so anyway, but changing our hearts is what I notice is being here in America, I see more than I did before the greater spiritual needs around me. We have, it's so hard to go. Many of you travel. In fact, the people that have gone to Haiti with me know exactly what I'm talking about. I was going to try to catch your eye, because all of you are in the same boat I am, and how it's changed you, because I know that. But when you go to such a different culture with such stark differences in what they have, and then you come back, it just makes you see things differently. And so here, I am more thankful for what I have, but my neighbors and those around me, I just see the spiritual needs so much more than I did before. And then when I'm in Haiti, I just see the physical needs as well as the spiritual needs. And I guess it just makes me also more thankful for the things I have, and I have a little more gratitude maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. There's something about giving away and recognizing that we are merely stewards, it's not ours anyway, that does impact our heart. I love what you said, that you're more aware of the spiritual realities even here. It's not just when you go there, but here, because of what God has done. And that's great. That's the principle of stewardship. How can we use what we have to bless others? Thank you for sharing your story. And I know that Becky would want everyone to know this is not about lifting anyone up on a pedestal, but about the blessings that God does in us through generosity. Thank you for sharing your story. There's another cool story that I want you to hear as we bring things to a close today, and that's from Jim Rathbun. Jim, go ahead and come on up. A few months ago, you might remember that we had that thank you poster that's sitting at the back of the worship center out in our lobby, and we talked about a connection that Jim had made to Fall Creek Intermediate and a need that he became aware of there. Jim, I want you to tell us a little bit, kind of that backstory again, remind us of how that came to be.
For me, what I do every morning is I get up and I say, what can I do today to be generous? That might be picking up trash off the floor. That might be saying something nice to a clerk or whatever. But so this day, it happened to be on a website called Nextdoor, or an app called Nextdoor. I don't know if you've seen that. You can post things for like, I need a babysitter, or I need a painter, or somebody smashing pumpkins in my neighborhood or whatever. It's kind of crazy. So, and Rachel turned me on to this, and I don't know why I was even on it, to tell you the truth, but I was on it one day, and somebody posted, we need playground balls for Fall Creek Intermediate School, and that Marsh usually provide those for them, but they're not in existence anymore, as we all know. So we need playground balls. So if anybody has used playground balls or whatever, drop them by my house, I'll take them to the school. So I just, in the message area, asked, well, what are you looking for? And how many balls are you looking for? And all this kind of stuff. And they needed footballs and basketballs and kickballs and all that kind of stuff. And I said to her, we'll take care of that. At Trinity Church will take care of that. And she said, what are you talking about? So I asked how many, and we ended up spending about $300 on playground balls. And I just asked my home group all to chip in.
Yep. I guess I don't need that. I got this. Just have it. So we have that sign, that thank you sign, that's signed by all the guys at Fall Creek Intermediate. And then from there, that turned into something more exciting even that we're going to talk about here. You probably noticed the tables that when you came in today. We have an opportunity today to bless Fall Creek Intermediate again in a new way, and we'll give you some instructions on how we're going to do that before we leave today. But tell us then how this turned into these tables of staplers that we have here.
So back up even a little more of it. So I posted on that, publicly I posted on this website that we were going to take care of that. Well, whenever you do that, other people want to try to get in on that freebie, So another school said, we need playground balls, Sand Creek Intermediate. So I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this because it's getting a little out of hand. And I said, sure. So I texted another small group, and they contributed for that. So if you go on Trinity's Facebook page, there is a video of Sand Creek Intermediate saying thank you to the church for providing those balls. So after that, I asked this person, I said to them, what else can we do for the school? What can we do to bless them? What can we do to encourage them? Because we're neighbors. We're literally 300 yards from their front door, And she said, well, I've had this dream of buying staplers for the teachers. They buy cheap staplers, they break. I go in and volunteer, and I can't find a good stapler and all that kind of stuff. And so I'd like to provide staplers. So I'll shorten the story. Threw back and forth a few arguments with each other because she didn't want us to do it. We'd done enough for them, and I said, okay. And she wanted to do a fundraiser, and then I came back and I offered again, and she finally gave in to my twisting of her arm. She said we could buy staplers for them. So we ended up buying staplers and staples and tape, which is on one table. But then we kind of said, you know what, so many times we recognize teachers, but we don't recognize the janitor or the office worker or, the cafeteria worker. So we got a group of people together. It's a small handful, probably 10 people, and we collected money, $1,800, and we're going to give them all this stuff and give staff members at least $25 in something, a gift card or cash or something. So that's how it all came about.
Yeah, I love that story. Again, generosity begets more generosity. That's the nature of this. When we realize that it's not ours anyway, there's this snowball effect, and it's awesome to see. So one more question, Jim. For a lot of people, they might be thinking, surely HSC schools can afford to buy their teachers staplers. I mean, why in Fishers, Indiana, would that be a need that we would need to meet as a church? What would you say to those of us that have that thinking?
I don't think Jesus came and said, I'm going to come for you, but I'm not going to come for you. I'll come for you, and I'm not going to come for you. He came for all of us. And God gave his life, and we're to give. We shouldn't be looking at anybody any differently if they have money or don't have money. A lot of times for me, I carry money in my pocket. If I pull up to a stop sign and there's a beggar out there with a sign, that says I need money, people say, you don't know what they're going to do with that money. Well, that's not the point. The point is I steward it when it's in my pocket. When I give it to them, it's up to them to steward what's in their pocket. But God told me to give. So that's why it doesn't matter how much somebody has. We just should be giving no matter what.
Right. Absolutely. Because of all that he has given to us, it's all his anyway. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. In just a minute here, we're gonna do something with these staplers, and I'll give you some instructions on that. But I want you to reflect for just a moment in your own life. And if you would, take out the next step card that's in your bulletin or in the seat pocket in front of you. Worship team, you guys can go ahead and come on up. And the question that I have for us this morning is not, will you give more? Because generosity is not a matter of quantities, but what is the state of your heart this morning? And the things that you have, are you willing to say, Lord, it's all yours anyway? Tell me what you want me to do with it. And this week in particular, how can you use time, talent, and treasure better to serve his kingdom? We're going to sing.
We just want to thank you for watching the sermon online. If God is working in your heart, we would love to hear about it. You can go online, www.encountertrinity.com/nextstepscard. You can fill out information there. Let us know what God is doing in your heart. If you need help with anything, we would love to help. Counseling, we would love to do anything that we can to help you go to that next level spiritually. When you fill this out, it goes to one of our pastors. It is private, and we will take care of that information to the best of our ability. We love you, we care about you, and we want to see God do great things in your life. Have a great day.